7 distinguished guests from the local business community, a complete wealth of knowledge. They're all very creative people from very, very diverse backgrounds. So I hope that you'll get a lot of insight into what goes into starting up a business, what sparked these people on, and what keeps them going, and what are the issues they contend with day to day that make it the most difficult. So some of the solutions they've come up with might help you at some point in your career, in your future. So we have a moderator tonight, Peter Gregory, who is the CEO of the Westant Group, an international management consulting firm. He is going to introduce this guest panel that he has really helped us to put together. He's a great friend of the college. So I'm going to hand it over to him. He'll introduce each guest. They'll talk about their businesses. We're very honored we have Father Kevin Mackin, our president, here tonight, and members of our business division who support us tremendously in everything we do. So thank you. It's Peter Gregory.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you all for coming. This is, I think we gained some pretty good traction as we went along here. And I think this is an inaugural event. I think hopefully this is a great evening to bring in some businesses, some that may be new faces to the area. And you know, with the years at the Orange County Business Accelerator, we really brought up quite a few number of companies. Some of them are on the panel up here tonight. And from each of those, we're going to get about 10, 15 minutes, a little bit about how did they get into this? What was the need out in the market? And try to answer maybe some of your questions that are out there. That's what we're depending on, that we may know a little bit about what's going on in your mind and maybe future business leaders out there. And you know, just a few comments from myself. I mean, I've been with startups for just about ever. I started my first years with Xerox, pulling companies out of their technology labs, which over years you start sitting on different sides of the table and allows you to see the money side of it, you see the publicity, the marketing side of it, and plenty of operations, trying to keep the customer happy with that. So those are some areas that each of our speakers tonight may be able to comment on, but usually there was some change event that maybe they left their company, they left the security for which they came, and were either jumping into or got pushed into what they're doing right now. We'll hear a little bit about that. And then along the way, certainly there's been big lessons learned. And maybe each of you will share a little bit about what you'd like to help somebody else not have to go through. But however you plan, you know, the plan changes. You get the business plan. And as you get into these things, situations turn. And there's a couple clients I have right now that went for a full year without the market changing underneath their feet. That's a long period to go. So I'm really excited to have everybody. Really appreciate all the response we got from our business people around the area. And just to start, what I'm going to do is pass the mic down. If everybody could just introduce yourself and mention your company name, and then we'll come back up here. Maybe just do it in order. We're starting with Pete here.
Sure. Pete Wassell, Augmate Corporation. We use software for digital eyewear. Perhaps you've seen some of the news blurbs about Google Glass. There's a couple of companies that make digital eyewear, and we make the software for them.
Evening, my name is Steve Powell. My company's Cooperate Marketing Group, and we like to say, you bring the steak, we'll create the sizzle. I'm not here tonight to talk about my company, though. I'm here to talk about one of my clients and give you a little story about how they started, the pitfalls they met along the way, and what we're doing right now to help them get further along in their business program.
Good evening, my name is Kenan. I developed a brand called Sabila Aloe drinks. We distribute them, produce and distribute them regionally here, but we're out of Warwick, New York. Just an all-natural aloe water. I don't know if anybody's seen it out there, but gluten-free, all-natural beverage distribution, basically.
Hello, my name is Zurilla, and my company is Frugaldoo, and we're a mobile marketing company that uses your cell phone to connect you with local merchants in your community. And we're location aware and intelligent software, so I'll be happy to comments that I know about.
Good evening, my name is Weisman, and my company is Weisman Success Resources, and I like to say I'm a leadership and workplace communication expert, and I help leaders and their teams communicate more effectively so they can create a motivated work environment and sustain high performance. More about that. Weisman?
With a vote.
I'm Will Rodman from Corey Productions. I am one of the companies that Peter alluded to who is organically grown in Orange County. We're a company that merges entertainment and education in a very profound way to create original programs to benefit children among others.
So thank you. Well, hopefully everybody's got that down, got the names and companies. I'm sure we're going to be around afterward. So the way that we'll work is a few minutes, going through a little bit of what I explained just a minute ago. And then we'll probably hold off questions to the end. And we'll have a good session of that question and answer round. So hold your questions until we get through everybody here. And then we'll have some networking, I think. I don't know how late anybody's planning on staying here. But yeah, a lot of business people and a lot of students looking for jobs here. So keep that in mind. Peter, here you go.
Okay, so a little bit, I'll talk a little bit about our company, what we do, how we got started. First, a little background. I spent 14 years at IBM and left about a year and a half ago to start this company. And, IBM is a good place to work. It's kind of like a parent. They take care of quite a bit for you. And a couple of guys that I know, we got together and we saw some technology that we thought was pretty cool. We thought that perhaps the technology was being misused or not used as good as it could be, and we decided that we would be able to form a business around this technology. So we decided to take a leap and start a company. So a little bit about this technology. One of the things that motivated us was in fact, to create a clickable world. So you say to yourself, how could you create a clickable world? Well, it was our belief that you should be able to, metaphorically, right-click on any physical object in the real world to get more information about it. And you'd say to yourself, well, how is that possible? How can you do that? Well, through the use of AR, which is augmented reality, and digital eyewear, there is this possibility to do this. So perhaps you've seen movies, whether it's Terminator Vision or The Matrix, or sometimes this is fodder for your imagination for where this technology can go. Iron Man, there's this ability to have this information right in front of your eyes. And we did some studies, and there's a lot of studies that have been done in academia that shows there's upwards of about a 30% efficiency of time on task when you have information right in front of you. So in other words, if you don't have to reference a paper-based manual or an iPad or some sort of mobile device, and you have this information that's readily available, step 1, step 2, step 3 for your workers, there's upwards of a 30% time on task efficiency. So you can imagine if I walked into a company and said to the owner of the company, I can make your workers 30% more efficient, perhaps they would be likely to talk and be interested in our products. So what we did was we started developing some products around this technology. One of our first products was the ability to look at a 2D barcode, which is called QR codes, if you've seen this before. And we use that as, and hopefully I'm not going too deep here, as a database query to pull content from a content management system. So we allow companies to upload content, whether it's imagery or text, and through the QR code, when we look at it through the digital eyewear, we can overlay the QR code with this digital information. So that's how we get this digital information onto physical objects. So you can imagine they could be used in a warehouse. You could slap these QR codes on items in the warehouse, and the picker, let's say for shipments, would know what's inside the boxes, be able to tie that to a database system so that you've got correct orders. A utility company would be able to put these QR codes. By the way, we've got the ability to generate the codes and then put them on different objects, and then use them in that fashion. Really, you can tie them to any kind of content. So if it's a utility company, you'd be able to say, hey, this is a transformer, it's a certain number of volts, here's how you do maintenance on it, those types of things. So it's giving workers the information. So it's information where you need it or where you expect it. That's the efficiency. So that was one of the first products that we put together. Second product that we put together was something called SME access, subject matter expert access. So sometimes there's very complex maintenance or assembly tasks that are being done, and through this digital eyewear, you've got the ability to do P2P video sharing. So you might have a subject matter expert that's in California, and the person that's doing the maintenance task might be in Wisconsin, and you've got an ability to share this information and literally see what the other person is seeing and help them complete the task. So it's another product that we put together, and then a third product that we put together was kind of augmented instruction, so the ability to look at an object and get instruction for doing assembly. So again, having the information in the worker's eyes, step 1, step 2, step 3. That's some of the products that we put together. So we're still early stage. We've been at this for a little over a year. We're looking to raise capital. Some of the things that I can talk about either now or later is really how to get things started with little to no funding, because that's going to be the toughest part. It's probably important for even an established business, but what's happened now in the business world is there's this ability to kind of get a company started with very little funds. So there's you can put a website on GoDaddy. You can use cyber coders to do your programming. You can use Salesforce.com to do your sales. There's outsourcing for HR or secretarial or admin support. And if you leverage all of this new technology and new ways of doing business, you could literally start a company. We even use LegalZoom.com to incorporate. So you can start a company for under $1,000. So it's really lowered the barrier to getting started with business, and I think that's what's really appealing. And now with software and applications, you can kind of just throw a bunch of things onto the wall, see what sticks, and then as things take off, you kind of make your adjustments. So there's an ability to make applications. You put them on, let's say, an app store. People like them. They're going to download them, and then it's a pretty low cost to be able to get a business started. And there's really a whole lot of different models in this particular sector. So we are using a subscription service, a monthly subscription service on the content management system. This is where the companies have the ability to upload whatever media they want and attach it to physical world objects. But also within this space, you can do a freemium model. In other words, you can have an application that's for a mobile device that's free, but then they upgrade to a higher price version of the product. There's advertising that can be done on mobile devices, also with your application. So a lot of different business models. Very short, a small amount of money to get things started. So it's, I think, appealing to software engineers and folks that want to get started in this kind of business.
In your work, just one quick question. In the virtual world that you're working, where's your team? Is your team all here, right near you, or is it all over?
We've got a lot in this area, but we even have developers in Europe. So it's kind of nice because we'll do calls. Again, this is an inexpensive way to do business. We do meetings through Skype. So we've got a developer who's in Spain. We do a call at a time that's convenient for both of us. We'll use Google Docs to be able to store information and do collaborative stuff or Gmail. So again, it's really, the world's flat, and there's an ability to now work with folks all over the place. So that's become convenient.
Hi. Can everybody hear me without this, by the way, or no?
Better with it.
Better with it? Okay, all right. So let me give you a quick background on me and why you might be interested in something good I'm about to tell you this evening. I've got about 25 years as a chief creative and a marketing director. A lot of that with agencies in the city. I sold a lot of product for companies you've heard about, like Dunkin' Donuts and Kraft and General Mills. I've helped museums raise funds for expansion. I've helped 3 IPOs put their branding and their positioning together to raise funds and go public. And I've helped a lot of companies start their businesses through smart branding and a smart marketing package.
That's not working.
That's not working?
No,
This isn't working? I gotta hold it this high?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, sorry. So long story short is I've got a long track record of working with startups and with companies looking to raise funds and grow their businesses. When I was invited here tonight, I was trying to figure out what I would talk about. I own myself 2 startups that I'm in the midst of launching. And I thought about that, and I thought about presentations I've given on branding for startups, and I decided not to go there. Instead, I want to talk about a client of mine named Roadblock. There's about 60 people here. Does anybody own a motorcycle? Okay. Are you aware that every 9 minutes in this country a motorcycle is stolen? And 3 out of 4 of them are just rolled away? Well, my clients were aware of that. They were motorcycle people. And they decided the only way they could protect their bikes was to carry around these great big clunky chains and padlocks. One of them had a kryptonite lock. But the end result was it was big, it was clunky, they carried it around with them. One day one of the brothers went somewhere and he came out of the restaurant, got on his bike, took off, only he forgot to undo his chain. He went flying into the street, his bike was just about destroyed. He started complaining about it to his brother, he and his brother started thinking about it, they started spending months talking about a better way. They came up with what they thought was a better way. And then they went about creating it. They borrowed money from their family to build a prototype and cut the chase. Very long year and a half later, we're jumping to now. And all of a sudden, after a year and a half, they felt they really had something. So what they did is they got a patent, and that in itself took quite a while. Has anybody in here ever tried to apply for a patent? This also is not a quick fix. This is a long process. They went through this whole process. They built this thing. It's a great product. It attaches permanently to a brakes caliper. The wheel can't move. The fork can't move. It can't be cut or broken. It's a great product. And they knew they had something. So they lived in New Hampton, right near here. They named their company New Hampton Locks, and they set out to make their fortune. They knew in the motorcycle industry, if you build the right buzz, you get the community talking, everything will work out, and sales will come their way. Okay, so here's what happened. They got this prototype, they went around to local dealers, they got a few dealers to carry their products, and lo and behold, in the first 6 months, they sold about 50 of these things. They said, we got it. They jumped on social media. They have a Facebook page, they have Twitter accounts. They really worked it and really knew as young guys exactly what they needed. They even bought 5,000 friends through Facebook. And if you don't know, you can buy friends through Facebook, and that's how all of a sudden you have all these followers. Not to say social media is real, but it's not necessarily real. Long story short, they did all this. They spent hours and hours out of every single day on blogs. They created a lot of buzz. Then they got a company called Rodman, which is one of the largest parts distributors in the country, to say they would carry their product. They knew it was gold from here, and wow. So all told, what happened? They sold about 100 locks. Now, this is not a cheap product. This is a $300 lock. So selling 100 locks is still some money. However, they knew in order to get big, they needed to go out there. They went out there, they raised funds. Again, this is not a quick thing that happened. I'm making it really, really short. Years of their lives they invested in this. They finally raised $250,000. So now they knew they had it, except now it's 3 years later. This money went to employ themselves and two of their family members in fulfillment and marketing and running an office. They ran their own shop, they did their own marketing, they handled their own fulfillment. They even came up with a great improvement for their product and started making it out of titanium steel. So nobody can cut this thing. This thing was impervious, it was beautiful. They lined up a dozen more dealerships. I want to make sure I get all this. I'm sorry if I'm looking down at these bullets, but I think it's important. All these steps that every startup business is told to do, they did. And they did well. They're bright guys, they're talented guys. So they had a YouTube channel, they had videos on it, they got reviews from a couple of motorcycle shops, and they sold about 1,000 locks, which is great. in 3 years. Now that sounds, again, $300,000 they made in revenues. That's awesome. They paid for their family's upkeep. They paid their bills. They did all these wonderful things. And at the end of the day, after 3 years, they looked and they said, well, we paid for our own selves and we made a living. But we haven't really made any money. By the time you look at it, costs, shipping, fulfillment, everything that goes into manufacturing, they ended up saying, well, at least we supported ourselves. And then the investors said, well, yeah, you supported you. 3 years ago, we invested $250,000. We haven't seen a penny back. This is not a good thing. So these investors were really a group of smart, successful people, and they got involved in the company. And they took an active role. They changed the name of the product from New Hampton locks to Roadblock. They came up with a great descriptor. It's a power sport locking system. There's a great logo. There's nice designs on their literature. They did a lot of really good things. They even lined up Geico to partner with them and give a 10% discount on motorcycle insurance. They found, they got their website going, so now they're making web sales as well. And they even found a European motorcycle manufacturer who agreed to make it a bona fide part. This all seemed terrific. Now it's 2010. Motorcycle sales in the country and in the world are down by about 40%. Where there were 15,000 dealers in this country, there are now under 10,000. And this is just a reality. What happened in 2010, they sold about 1,500 locks. 5 of them to that European manufacturer. So they're still not doing great, but the investors are saying, all right, well, we're making progress, we're heading in the right direction, we gotta be patient, this is not a quick buck, this is gonna work out. Now came 2011. In 2011, they sold about 1,500 locks. However, that European manufacturer came back and said, nobody wants your locks, you gotta buy them back from us. So at the end of the day, they sold about 1,000 locks. Not a great track record. So the investors looked at it, they did their math, they said, you know what, we need about 3,000 locks per year just to really break even and maybe start to have a profitable business. And if we want to see an return on investment, we need to sell a lot more than that. So they went and they got a fulfillment warehouse and they told the brothers, you gotta let Dad go. You gotta let your sister go. In fact, you guys can't even get salaries anymore. We'll pay you a percentage on every lock we sell. We're not trying to cheat you, but we can't keep paying this salary for you. The brothers were very upset about it. It turned into a big fight. It turned into a legal battle. And at the end of the day, the investors won. The brothers now no longer have direct control over their own invention and their own product. And it was because they weren't paying enough attention to the real pieces that make a profitable business. They had a great product, they had a great invention, they were very proud, they spent hours every day working the social networks. There's a lot of things they didn't do, though, to sell their products. So now, come September of 2012, these investors came to me. And again, I am a marketing firm, and part of what I do is brand and package for sales and for raising funds. We did an internal audit. Now, I've already told you the story. Can anybody here guess what we found that they were missing, that they didn't do? Anybody? Nobody's got a clue? Yes, sir.
So more like South, more countries, except just...
Well, more countries was one of the things that we looked at, and they do now have a UK distributor and an Australian distributor. But it doesn't change the situation. Tucker Rocky's the biggest distributor in this country. It didn't help. What they didn't do is they didn't market their product. This is being sold through dealerships. It never occurred to them, how do we get the dealers to want to sell this? Not, gee, here's a great thing, you're going to want to sell it. But, hey, here's a great thing, and you're in the business of making money. How can we make this profitable for you? So one of the things we've done is put together a dealer rebate program. The dealers weren't even putting this out on the shelf. Because if somebody walked in and asked for it, they'd sell it. Otherwise, they had other things to think about besides the 30, 35 bucks they're gonna make off of this lot. So now we've instituted a dealer rebate program that says you put one of these on your floor model, and you actually display our point of purchase materials, and you sell one of these suckers, and you send us a dated picture to prove it's really on the floor, and we're gonna give you an extra 5%. This program is just barely underway. Literally, we launched it 2 weeks ago. We have 5 dealers that have reached out to us in 2 weeks to say, hey, we did it, here's our photo, here's our proof of purchase, send us our rebate. We're thrilled, of course we're gonna send them their rebate. We also went after the consumer, and we did that by thinking about the consumers. When you think motorcycles, and you're not a motorcycle aficionado, but you're thinking consumers, one of the big things that enters your mind is American shoppers. So we went to American shoppers, and we cut an equity deal. And for a small percentage of equity, they made us a Roadblock shopper. And they unveiled it just 2 weeks ago on American Shoppers, which, by the way, has been canceled as of this week, but we got ours out. Yeah. But having said that, we got Paul Powell Jr., who designed it, to endorse this product. He gave us a great testimonial. We're in the middle of putting together point of purchase displays with his big picture on it, talking about how he recommends this stuff. So these are the things we're doing to try to fix what is in essence a beautiful product and even a very, very smart business model. But what they didn't do, and my little lesson to you here today, is you can follow all these changes, you can follow all the advice on how to build a startup business. You can even do the right thing and raise funds. But if you don't look at the entire picture, and you don't look at the synergy of your business, and how you're really going to sell it, and who you're really going to sell it to, you're going to find sustainability is an issue and not a good thing. I'm going to let go because I could talk all day. I did a radio show on marketing for years. I could go on for all night. But I do have materials that I want to show you if I get another chance around to show you just what we did. In the meantime, I'm going to shut up.
Very good, Steve. That's great. Very interesting story. It's been around and it's grown up. That product and the company, what Steve's doing right now is taking it into the adulthood. So we're getting there. Kenan, no questions for you? We'll take questions later.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. That was a great story. It's unfortunate that the company got taken, but it definitely is a good story. One that I can reckon with. I started out on the alcoholic side of the business while I was in college. I developed a product called Spike Punch. It was a Capri Sun style pouch with 2 shots of vodka and it pre-mixed, ready to drink. I launched it in 2000. Well, I developed it in 2006, and it was really my college startup company, if you will. And I had a patent pending application on it. It was the big dreams that I had. I was going to do a Girls Gone Wild style all the way across the country, right? And it was really exciting. And I remember I found a concept when I was over visiting in Puerto Rico, and I said, man, this is an awesome. I found something similar. And I said, man, this is an awesome concept. So the rest of the vacation was ruined. I put a business plan together, and I pitched it to my father as soon as I got home. And I got my initial startup capital, which is something that most young entrepreneurs have to do, is reach out to friends and family network, because it's not always that easy to go the outside investor route. So that's what I did. I put my business plan together, and I got my initial startup funds to do it. At that time, I thought that I could get a product out within 6 months. Didn't happen. It took about 5 years, 4.5 years to get the product to the market, because at that time I didn't know what it took to get an alcohol product to the market when you're dealing with the government agencies and everything. I mean, literally, I got bled dry over the course of 4 years, and my initial startup capital just dissipated. And then Spike Punch, I wound up getting into the market, but in the time that I developed Spike Punch and I learned all the things that I was learning, I finished school, because it was time to finish school. And no more dragging it out in anticipation to launch Spike Punch. It was just time to get into the real world, get a job. This was back in 2007, or 2008, I'm sorry. And so at that point, it was either get a job working for a bank, because I have an economics degree, finance minor. It was either get a job working for a bank or get a job in the beverage industry and learn as much as I could in anticipation to launch Spike Punch, which was ultimately my dream and vision. Finances were in ruins, so I decided to go with a beverage job. So I got a job down in New York, in Manhattan, working from 34th Street down to Wall Street to the financial district, and basically selling beverages for a Korean distributorship. So I was the only American on the sales force. They hired me because they needed an English speaker that could pitch on those accounts, so it worked out well. I just wanted to selling a lot of beverage for the Koreans, and I rode a bike around the streets of New York City. It was a pretty interesting point in my life. So my intention was at that time to just learn as much as I could, and then when Spike Punch came, I would have all this new knowledge and maybe save some money and figure out what I was going to do next. During that time, though, I said, I'm selling these beverages to this Korean distributor, but I could also be selling these beverages for myself up in the market. So what I did in my home market, so what I did was I pitched equity to a few people that I knew in my home network up here, and I got the rights to the products that the Korean distributor had for my territory up here for the counties. And my thinking was, I'm going to manage my team down in New York here, and I'm going to manage my team in upstate New York, and now I'm going to have some more revenue coming in for myself. And that's what I did. And within a short period of time, we obtained about 250 accounts in the Hudson Valley here, and things were cranking, things were going pretty good. During that period, I was selling a brand for the Koreans down in New York, and it was an Aloe. And it was initially targeted to the Asian population. This is going back in 2008 now. And I was selling a lot of it, but the Asian demographic wasn't drinking, it was the Hispanic population. And I realized that because I was saying, who's drinking this stuff? And I would go down and downstairs and I'd see all the workers, because generally you have a lot of Hispanics that are working down in the account, cooking in the back room, packing shelves and stuff. And they were drinking it. They were not consumers. So it wasn't the Asian coming into the store buying it, it was the Hispanics in the back room drinking it. So I said, there's something here. So again, targeting your market, which is a huge piece to growing a business. Figuring out who it is that you're targeting and really defining it, breaking it down, and understanding how you're going to get to them. So for me, it was clear that the Aloe drinks should have been marketed to Hispanics and not the Asian. So I utilized all my talents that I had acquired from Spike Punch, and I decided to launch my own Aloe drink. So I went through the whole R&D. This time it took 5.5 months instead of 4 years to get it, because it's a non-alcoholic beverage at this point. So I was on a plane to Taiwan. I sourced my manufacturers. I was on a plane to Taiwan to my co-packer. 3 months later, and bam, we got Sabila Aloe drink that hit the shelves in 2009. And at that point, we had 500 accounts now in Hudson Valley, upstate market. So I plugged it in instantly. So I brought a lot of those initial costs, those startup costs that I had at Spike Punch. I had to build it from nothing. I had a nice solid foundation, and I plugged my Sabila Aloe drink into it, so it brought those costs down. And then from there, it just grew, and now we have 6,000, 6,500 accounts in the tri-state area. Lead distributors like Manhattan Beer Distribution and tri-state Beverage and Peerless Beverage. I mean, these are big houses, big EST houses on Main Street. And I got all that just from a dream, Spike Punch, and growing it from there. And it was really cool. And I get to meet a lot of different people like Peter who bring me to events like this, and I get to talk to young people like you because I'm not too far off. I mean, I'm getting older by the day, but I'm not too far off. And it's like, but it's really cool when for me, my parents, my family says that I talked about being an entrepreneur when I was 5 years old, literally talked about it. Because my dad's been in business for 35 years, and I've grown up with it, and it's just in my blood, it's who I am. And, then I get a vision, and I have the ability to go after it, to really go after it, just exciting to see what I've been able to create in such a short period of time. And the main thing, I think, is being innovative. Looking for gaps that you have to fill, needs that people have, that people desire, and filling those gaps and going after. I mean, you have to be innovative. You have to think of new things, thinking outside the box, but just continually going after it. For example, Spike Punch. I could have taken that project and not gone anywhere with it. Instead, it took 4.5 years to get it there, but I did launch Spike Punch, and I did it in the network that I created, which was really awesome. And just pushing through. It could have been a failure, but instead I turned it into a success. I acquired a ton of knowledge, a ton of information, and I dropped my Aloe branded. And to get 6,500 accounts in 3.5 years is pretty exciting. We started out with gross revenue of 105 cases out of my dad's garage on Island, and literally out of the garage on Island, New York, 105 cases, and grew it up to a 17,000 case business in the first year. And then the second year we did about 100,000 cases, and this year we're scheduled to do well over that. But in gross.
Kenan, what are the countries you're telling me that you have exposure now all around the globe, do that?
Yes, absolutely. One of our biggest accounts that we acquired in 2012 here was called Cusco Coffee Company. So now we're exporting there in Puerto Rico, which is really cool because I bring it back to home, where it's like when I started, where I started in college in Puerto Rico with an idea, and then I bring it back, and now my brand is successful, and I'm exporting it to Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Panama, and Aruba, which is really cool. Yeah, that's.
Well, we'll be there on this. February 9th is a good time to go for a trip. I'll be there with you. Just think about that.
So basically, I would say that one of the biggest challenges for me as an entrepreneur, and for anybody that decides to go after it, is stay focused, right? But don't let your pride, ego get in your way. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you're a very driven person, you can often block things out. For me, I don't always, sometimes I'll talk to somebody and I need to watch my tone on how I speak to them. Maybe I'm stressed out, but it doesn't matter. I have to speak at a normal tone where people accept it. When people tell me certain things, I'll block it sometimes, but I have to accept it, and it's part of putting that, setting the pride down and letting the ego go down a little bit and just listening to people. Listen to the people that are around you that ultimately want to help you better better who you are as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a young, driven business owner or dreamer. So that's something that I think is important to know. And then basically I can help one of my partners. We're here tonight, and we're looking for some interns just to help us out locally. So if you want to talk about different ways that you can help out for future growth as far as business goes, just winners, feel free to reach out afterwards. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And as I said before, my name is Bill Zurilla, and I'm Executive VP of a company called Frugaldoo. And, my story is a little different, but I think you'll see there's quite a bit of a common thread that's going to flow through all these stories. And my background is I've been in the corporate world. I actually was a CFO of a newspaper group, and I understood local advertising. A couple of years ago, after I left my comfortable job, and I met an old friend of mine who had been kicking around this idea. And the idea was to use your cell phone as an advertising tool. And the way it works is that we combine your cell phone with location-aware technology so that if you're looking for something, anything, you text one word to us in the short code, we find where you're at. and send you a deal for that, whatever you want, directly to your cell phone. And where we come up with this, and I think the common thread that you'll hear going throughout, is that we recognize the need. And we recognize the need because we were in the business, in the industry. I think it would be very hard for me to come out and invent something in the alcoholic beverage industry or something like that out of the blue, having never worked in it. So there's a common thread. You've got to have some background in this, and you've got to know that so that you can recognize the need. And also, when talk about innovation, what it is you have to innovate if you know. You can know too much. And I think in many businesses, I think the larger businesses that are going around today, I think Microsoft's a good example of somebody that maybe was too successful, that they missed a lot of opportunity, search and things like that. You have companies like Google come along and take it away from them. So you can know too much, so you need to innovate within your expertise. And what we knew, though, and I think it's a good example, we knew that the mobile industry is where advertising is going. And if you think about radio, TV, and the old style media, what they did was connect advertisers with consumers. And they did it by communicating. Well, the tool of choice now is really that mobile phone. And it's everything. It's a radio, it's a TV, it's a movie theater, it's a, just an information machine. And so everybody's going to do it, and everybody has that phone here. 90% of the time, I think 90% of the people have the phone within reach 24/7. And I think that no one will argue with that statistic. So what we saw was an opportunity to serve local advertisers, because today local media doesn't work very well. Few of you listen to radio 6-8 hours a day, you sit in front of the TV. It's very fragmented. So we realized that there was a niche there. There's a niche that can both provide service to the advertiser, which is advertising local businesses, but provide service to the community, to provide deals to you when you want them wherever you are. So we took a couple of years. We built this product. It works. You can text anything you want to it. Our shirt code, which is Frugal, F-R-U-G-A-L, or 378-425, and you can get a response. Now, what we found, I think, is the common thread here is that we have two customers. One is the business that's selling the advertising. They pay the bills because it's free to use. The other, though, is the consumer. So we found it quite easy, actually, to get the businesses to buy on, because they are really looking for something effective to do for advertising. What we found most difficult is connecting with the consumers. And it's a marketing problem, but the challenge is that there's so much noise out there, is for us to connect and have people aware and have that become like a Google search, where the first thing you do when you're looking for something is pull out your phone and text a number and see what we have. So, different than Google, you won't get all the results, you only get a deal from what you're looking for. So we think there's a little premium there. But that has always been the biggest challenge. And I think the second biggest challenge I think everybody's talked through here is funding. We're looking for funding, and you've got to have enough funding. And my advice is if you're starting a business and you think you need 100,000, get 200. If you think you need 200, get 500. It's the best way to start, because things take a long time. I think we originally thought, and we did. Our background is in systems and developing systems, and we developed it in 4 to 6 months. Well, that's the easy part, as it turns out. Getting it out in the community, getting it used is difficult, and it takes time. So all this takes time. And I think the other common thread is, confidence. You have to have confidence in yourself. I think that everybody here would agree with that. Don't go into it if you don't think you're going to succeed and that you can't make this happen. But you should have confidence. So if you have the knowledge, you have the confidence, you have the capital, you'll be able to succeed. So with that's my brief little story of Frugal.
Very good. And while Bill is speaking, I got a couple good leads on pizza. I don't know where they are.
So imagine you're able to fulfill your childhood dream for 17 and a half years. I found myself in that place. For 17 and a half years, I was fulfilling my childhood dream. I never worked a day in my life. I got to go to a ballpark every day. How cool was that? In 1994, I was recruited. Our baseball team was recruited. We were sitting in Erie, Pennsylvania. And two gentlemen from Dutchess County, New York came, so we have an idea to build a baseball stadium. We said, okay, we'll listen. 6 weeks later, we were announced Dawson Valley Renegades were coming to town. A few years after that, it was 17 and a half years into my baseball career. The Renegades were highly successful. It was about the sixth inning of the ball game. Renegades were losing 4-2. It was about 8:45 at night. I looked at my watch. I looked at the scoreboard. I said, I don't care if we win or lose. I just want to go home. I knew my next career was on the horizon. The baseball lifestyle was pretty all-encompassing from April through the end of the season. If you're lucky enough, a couple more weeks into the playoffs. But the lifestyle after 17 years had gotten to me. I didn't enjoy being in the ballpark anymore. What was I going to do? All I had known from the time I was 8 years old was baseball. I didn't realize I had some other skills. Such as sales and marketing, promotions, and branding, and all that stuff that I had done for 5 different baseball teams over my career. So I realized I was not in a position to go anywhere. But I said, 20 years is a good round number to go out. A lot of different industries, retired at 20 years, military, police, fire, teaching profession. You get a nice little pension, you go off and you do something else. Baseball has none of that. But I said, I got 2.5 years to put my plan together, finances together, to do something else, to figure out what the next stage of my life is. And not long after that, as I was doing this sort of self-evaluation, self-reflection on what else I could do with the rest of my life, I harkened back to a situation a few years earlier in my baseball career when I was leading my staff. And there was a situation where I was at the ballpark, it was mid-afternoon, and the ball club was out of town, thank goodness. I was doing my own work, just sitting at my desk, and suddenly through the office walls I heard two very loud voices. I could tell those voices were employees beginning to have an argument. And so I did what every upstanding business leader would do in that situation. Who was responsible for the work environment, the workplace culture, the behavior, the performance of those two employees, who also had a propensity for conflict avoidance. Put my head back down and kept doing my work. I wished and hoped it would take care of itself. I wished and hoped those two adults would just take care of their own problems on their own. I have good news and I have bad news. Good news is they did start to take care of it on their own. The bad news, they started to take care of it on their own. The voices got louder. And the voices got louder. And the voices got louder. To the point where I could no longer avoid what I was hearing, so I dragged myself off my desk, walked around my desk, down the hallway, into the office next to mine, and I got there just in time to separate the two before the first punch was thrown. It was that serious. Nobody was laughing at that, unfortunately. So I did what every boxing referee would do. I separated the two into their neutral corners or neutral offices, and I was forced to finally deal with something I had been avoiding for months. At the end of the story, at the end of the situation, I lost two very good, very dedicated employees. It's an expensive proposition. You have to replace two very dedicated employees. And what I also didn't tell you is that after some self-reflection, some executive coaching, a change of careers, I realized that it was my communication style and my leadership style that caused that incident and some others during my career. And so as I was going through that process over the last year, 2.5 years of my baseball career, I also had some conversations with some sponsors and advertisers at the ballpark. I had grown close in those relationships. I had one or two of my sponsors start lamenting to me about their employees and their staffs. how they weren't motivated, they drove around. And I realized, well, if I had the same problem communicating with my staff and my people in my baseball career, there were probably some other business leaders out there that were having the same problems. So I decided what I was going to do after my 20th baseball season was begin working with business leaders and their teams to improve workplace communication, motivation, morale, and performance. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Motivation and morale is great, but if you're not actually doing the job performing, what's the sense? And so what I do now is I use my baseball background and my experience as a leader in professional sports to help business leaders and their teams perform at higher levels and to just get along in the workplace. You wouldn't think that would be so different. Can't we just get along? But it's amazing at how many people have those problems. And when I talk about workplace motivation, it's not about workplace motivation. It's about communicating to eliminate all the demotivators in your work environment. And you'd be amazed how many there are. And you don't even know what's happening. The business leader doesn't even know what's happening because of their habits of communicating. And the employees' habits of communicating. And then there's just a mismatch. There's conflict in the workplace. They don't even know it's conflict necessarily. They just know nobody's happy when somebody's face shows up walking through the door. So that's the work I do now. I've been doing it for about 11 years. And when it works, it's really rewarding. I'll give you an example of some things that people do that you don't even know is demotivating. Makes perfect sense to the business owner. I just visited with a client out in Michigan, and they want to go into another phase of work. So we're sitting around a conference room table, got the CEO and 4 people on the leadership team. And they're going through a rebranding process. They're actually a marketing advertising company. They're rebranding themselves. And they're right on the cusp of launching this January 1st. They have this new brand, this new logo, this new look. They made 3 new hires in September. They didn't buy any business cards yet because all the new brands coming out. So they have 3 employees representing the company. Can't get a business card because what we're changing. No sense in spending the extra $20 to get a business card.
My employee's laughing at me from across.
All right. So what message does that send? We're not valuable enough. We don't to represent our company with business. One employee doesn't even have a computer. They've been there for 2 months. What are you waiting on? So these little things happen. It makes perfect sense to whoever's leading the company, but they don't realize what's going on. So a lot of those little we think their employees are demotivated. It's not they're demotivated. Most employees, most people want to do a good job. Somewhere that gets lost in the morass of the communication breakdowns. So that's the work I do. And talking about business sustainability, in order for an entrepreneur to really build a business, they need good people. You can't do it by yourself, right, guys? You need to be able to trust your people. And so from a sustainability standpoint, it's about getting the right people on the bus, doing the right things with the right skills, making people in the right place. And I think a couple of things I learned over the years in building your own business is really getting clear on who your market is and what you do. We've heard that a couple of times. But being able to articulate that in a way that makes people say, I need that. I've known what I've been doing for a number of years, but it's only been, I'd say, 3 years since I've been telling people I help business leaders improve workplace communication, that people actually notice. And they say, we need to talk. Because that's the hustle. So really figuring out what that is and how to articulate it in a short, succinct way gets people to pay attention. And that's not really always easy to do. It takes some time, it takes some evolution. It took me about 7 years to really be able to figure that out. Maybe I could have done it easier with some help, but I think it really came from my clients and really seeing the work that I was doing and to be able to get that back. So I think sometimes you just need that real life experience and to be open to what's going on around you. To be able to listen to what's going on around you, listen to people who are in your sphere. One of the things I find is the biggest challenge in business leaders today is they don't. They think either they have all the answers, or they think they have to have all the answers, and not willing to take that. So when I coach my leaders, one of the biggest traits of business leaders I ask for is to have some humility and to be a humble leader and to ask for help and to be open to what you're hearing. Because I think so many leaders think they have to have all the answers and they can't show any vulnerability. I think one of the best traits of a business leader is to be authentic, show some vulnerability to people who want to help you. You don't have to have answers. So that's sort of what I've learned over the last 11 years. In building a business, running a business, and working with business leaders to create a sustainable business and really a sustainable workforce. And employees want to do a good job. It's a matter of eliminating the demotivators in communication. So that's it.
Skip, I'm so glad you stood up because I'm Italian. I need to walk. All right. Skip talks about one challenge to entrepreneurialism. Talk about marketing, talk about funding, talk about personnel operations. I'm going to just say this very simply, that to be an entrepreneur is to be insane. Now, and I am insane. I admit that. Venturing on this course, one has to be insane because you're going to believe in the impossible. And you're going to somehow find it within yourself to persevere and overcome some of those challenges, many of which are lessons that you couldn't prepare yourself for because you didn't know what you were setting off on in the first place. So how could you have the answer before the problem came? Does that make any sense? Very interesting that there's two gentlemen here today, Eric Ablin and Peter Gregory. After I spent 18 months in Orange County, and I'm a client of the Orange County Accelerator, which is where I met Peter. We were an early stage company, 4E Productions, looking to make a difference in the world by empowering, enriching, and enlivening people through original programs. So we met at the Accelerator, and we kind of laid out our plan, and we told them what we were going to do in the interest of balancing entertainment with education in a very profound way. And we were going to target a demographic that was the most formative stage of development, the preteens, because we believe that if you get children early enough in their development, that you can form healthy habits as opposed to being reactive as we are in a society. We're always reforming bad habits. So we have this formula, we have this plan, we have this mission, we even have a product. We have a series of songs which we had assembled into a musical production called Letters to Daddy. And we just needed some capital, we needed some traction, we needed some exposure. We had a whole marketing plan really which relied on a community collaborating, working together to embrace this ideal in order for us to get in front of the children so that we could reform, or we could form those habits at early stages and that they could change the world. They could make a difference. So we explain it. Peter gets to meet me real early in the process of this, and he's listening. And I can see many times we have this conversation, and the eyes start to glaze over. And I get halfway through, and I say, Peter, you just got to see it. You just got to see it. Well, after a year, we had produced Letters to Daddy at Orange County, at SUNY Orange, Orange Hall. We did the first rendition of it with 16 children from the county, all over the county, who came together in a 5-month process of rehearsals. And it wasn't just acting, singing, and dancing. It was really inspiring these children to be leaders in a new way, where it was about being role models for their peers. Peer-to-peer was a big aspect of our formula. So after this whole year, Peter comes up to me and he says, I finally got it. Because I've been hearing you talk about this, but once I saw it down on stage, everything you said came through. And he said, I didn't give you props because you never deviated from the course. So that was great. Anyway, a few months later, I meet Eric Ablin. We're sitting down and we have a nice conversation, and we're about 45 minutes in, and he goes, I got it. He goes, I've been listening to you for 45 minutes. He goes, you had me in 1 minute. You had my heart in 1 minute. He says, but it took me 45 minutes for me to get my head around what it was you were trying to do and how you were going to do this. I said, well, the good news is it took me a whole year to get Peter, so I got you in 45 minutes. I figured I'm making progress. There's no way in 10 minutes that I can give you guys the vision and explain what is so profound about this. But I'm going to give you the genesis. My best friend from childhood calls me up one day and he says, I got a great idea. So I hung up. Anyway, it's not the first time. My friend John and I went since we were 17 years old. We had a landscaping business. We had a driveway sealing business called Save the Sealers. We had Century 21. We were selling real estate, on and on and on. I could go through the litany. And my favorite was holiday blinds. We were going to revolutionize the decorating industry by having Santa Claus and jack-o'-lanterns and just hang them up on the window. Piece of cake, right? Until after 2 months of barking and Belving was planning, we're going to go to Target and Walmart. I woke up one day and I said, John, we don't know how to make blinds. He said, we don't want to make blinds. I said, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? So, he calls me up, calls me back, and he said, why do you hang up on me? I said, because we've done this before. He said, no, this is a really good one. I said, what? My friend John is an elementary school teacher in Minnesota. So he said, I want to teach character education, but I want to do it through a program called Character Ed, based on a character named Ed. And that was it. I was silent for 10 seconds, which is a novelty in and of itself, but I realized you finally did it. You finally found something that incorporates our life experiences, our professional experiences, because I'm an executive producer at ESPN at the time. I had been in broadcasting for 20 years, so I have a production background. He has an education background. I said, we can do this. Not only can we do this, we must do this. Because this is going to be our legacy. This is going to be the thing that we can do that we'll be able to leave for our children and that they can carry forward. And it all was based on a simple premise. Children don't realize they have choices. The need was the fact that children are conditioned. They're conditioned by their environment, they're conditioned by their habits and by their behaviors. And those patterns don't change unless they become consciously aware. So it's really about making children aware that they have choices. Simple idea that set it all into motion. We had no idea over 5 years just how complicated it was going to be to actually do this. But we started a business, called the Forey Productions, formed an LLC, and started on our books. 5 years later, we finally come to a point where we have something. But all along the way, we always encountered what we didn't have. We're a novelty in the other sense that we didn't start with any money. We had no funding to support this thing. And everyone said, you don't have anything, you don't have any money. But we got this great idea. Doesn't matter. So we went and we manufactured the first product, which was a song. We showed the song. We said, here's how messages can be embedded into music. Recycling the subconscious is very powerful for children. Well, that's great. Now you have a product, but you don't have any program to support it. So we built a whole program, whole musical production, putting 12 songs together, all which address different issues. Well, that's great. You got a program, but you don't have any marketing, you don't have any income. It just kept going until we finally got to a point where we believe we've arrived. We started with the belief that money will follow meaning. Because you can start with money and never find meaning. If you start with a meaning, and you believe, and you stay steadfast and true, everything is possible. And there's a certain irony. I believe when I was born that my name wasn't, my parents didn't name me. My name was bestowed. My name was Will. And the one ingredient that nobody could teach you was the one ingredient that we relied on, which is will. It was perseverance. It was constantly being able to overcome each challenge. And I equate it to a mountain climb, a banana peel mountain, where every step of the way you're going to encounter banana peels. And I'm assuming we're really close to the tree at this point because the frequency at which we slip on the banana peels, we must be getting close to the fruit. All right, in closing, I just want to leave you with one simple thing. It's all based on a cycle of peace. It should start with purpose. I know that we were flawed at the outset, believing that we could make a difference. But the truth was, you, college students, youth of America, can make a difference. Our habits, the habits of business, are so entrenched that it's very challenging to change them. But new ideas and new ideals and new ways which are fostered by youth who work collaboratively really can impact the society and make a difference. So I'm going to encourage you all, if you do set out on that course, find something that you're inspired by. Find a purpose. A purpose will inspire passion in people to be productive for profit. And that profit should go back to feeding the purpose. And that is a sustainable cycle. And I believe it, and I'm standing here and I'm still in business because I believe steadfastly in that principle. Purpose inspires passion in people to be productive for profit. It's the cycle. It's sustainable. So I encourage you to all find that purpose, and the rest will take care of itself. It might take a while, it might also take a few other ingredients, but thank you very much for coming and listening.
Very good, thank you. Thanks to all of our presenters here. That's it, fine. What's interesting is you're sitting here, it's a really nice setup that we have, and everybody's going to run out and get on their phone and continue doing business. These are very busy business people, and I've spent a good amount of time around many of them, and it really rubs off on me. I mean, I always get good payback by working around creative people, working every day to come through some challenges that you face. And the banana peel concept is something I'm going to steal from Will and start using tomorrow and anything else out there. But it's the truth, maybe the more peels you're running into, the closer to the banana you're getting. I think that's a really good point. And just another round of applause for everybody that made time to come. We'll see the line of maybe questions here by just something I know about one of the companies here. It's very on the ground. I think it's a very pragmatic thing. It's something that I'm working with every day, and it's probably touching your personal lives and your business. In fact, we had done a previous presentation. I had a couple other partners in here for some of the classes that I presented to on social media. And I'm bringing it down to something on earth that I deal with every day. We're trying to figure out how social media fits into all kinds of companies, whether it does or not, and how much to spend and what's the ROI and all that. Well, one of the presenters here tonight, Skip, knows that I hold him in the highest esteem because I see him doing more about fulfilling social media. I think that some of the steps that you've taken along the way probably could be very interesting. And Skip maybe takes us down that path a little bit. I read everything that Skip comes in with. Skip, by the way, was a presenter at the Accelerator, who was a client there. Kenan, we met through, let's call it investment, State Venture Alliance New York group. Steve, I've known, I think, for a very, very long time. He's my go-to guy since 2005, I believe. Even when I was living in Atlanta, I was calling up Steve about crazy projects that we get involved with.
Crazy.
They both of us have crazy projects. And Pete, Wassell, more of a recent contact over the last couple of years. We're great to have an early join some other professional talent alongside just to see what we can do for Pete. And it's not only a story. You talk about how small the world is. First of all, going back to the idea about Skip, the world is very flat. There's other arguments about that. But with Pete, there's a company back in almost 2001 I was working with that Pete circled back now and working very closely with the glasses. So even though that was hundreds and hundreds of miles from here, it's interesting how small the world is. Peter, very nice. Yes.
I know you've worked the Accelerator. My question is, how many women are entrepreneurial? I mean, we have an entire, you guys are delightful.
My wife.
Yeah, but she's not here, which I
No,
find
she is.
fascinating.
Because
So,
it's-
I'm talking about startups. Is it sex-biased?
No, it's just my Rolodex was.
Ah.
When we started putting this together.
Well, I'm talking about in the Accelerator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And no, there's definitely names here. When we do this again, which I think we'll have to work on, I think we should be doing this again and bring more people through. Actually, for the exposure to faculty, students, administrators here, and the companies for jobs and other reasons. There's studies to be done on these. But I'm very close contact with 3, 4, 5, 7 companies at the Accelerator still. Eric, they know Eric works with
Half
many.
of my clients
Half of his
are women.
clients. Yeah.
Entrepreneurs.
In the Accelerator.
In the Accelerator,
Okay.
I think that there's probably a quarter to a third of them, and I'm only thinking about that quickly
That's
here.
in the spring. In the spring, we'll have that.
Yeah, no, that's right, and that's a good question, but I noticed that here myself, and I went out my email, I said, next time, I kept saying, greetings gentlemen, and I put a comment in there and saying, we have to get women on the next panel up here, because I didn't do that one way or the other, but there are, up at the Accelerator, I'd say about a third that I'm still very much in contact with, trying to, in the briefest of all backgrounds, when we started a startup, there was some point to make a 90-degree turn, and then we wouldn't do what we said we were going to do. It would be an entirely different thing. And that's what happens with some of the Accelerator businesses. So what they came in there doing, ended up, they discovered, and I'm still working with some of them right now, is they make a 90-degree turn, and it's not what they showed up to do. But there's a fair good representation there.
Peter, can I just, on that subject, I joked, I said my wife actually is an entrepreneur and she's come up with 3.
I'm not asking you
No,
to
no,
defend
no,
it,
let me
but
tell you why.
here is the theory. About 30 to 40% of this audience are women, and we're all being talked to by men, and that really is a negative. So I just mentioned it because we learn best from each other in many respects. That was my only comment.
That's great. We'll have to work on that.
That's
We have
really
such
what
a
I'm trying to
wealth
say.
of talents here. I find it.
And just for completeness, I'm going to come back to the question for Skip. And just enter a bit of a question about social media, how he's doing it, and what you found, some of your discovery, and what everybody else thinks about their questions to come back to. Thanks, Skip.
A full-time job. To do it right. I've been actually fortunate. I have worked a lot. I have about 1,600 contacts on LinkedIn, 6,500 followers on Twitter, and I follow about the same. Not working Facebook that much because I don't think for a business, my clients are business owners, larger size businesses. That's really not going to be where I'm going to find on Facebook. But LinkedIn and Twitter seems to work for me. I'm involved in a boatload of groups on LinkedIn, probably over 30 groups. I try and post articles on a regular basis there. I've gotten 2 clients through social media. Not a lot of money revenue, but about $10,000 at this point. And I just met with a prospect out in Michigan last week when I was out there that came to me through Twitter. But it was a long, nurturing process. We connected on Twitter 2 years ago, and just staying in touch, following each other. She joined my list, my subscriber list, my blog, stayed in touch, and tell us what I did, just kept nurturing the relationship. So that might lead to a very big consulting process.
How about internationally? You do quite a bit of international work, is that correct? And then how did that affect social media?
Well, it's helped me grow my list. My subscriber list for my blog was around 6,500, and I'd probably say a third of them were international. I'm in the middle of negotiating a deal with a training company in Australia and New Zealand to license a couple of my topics that I've written white papers on, and that came in through doing international webinars and staying in touch with social media.
And actually, Peter, you had very interesting exposure on social media. You could mention that. I'm kind of cheating here because I know backstories on these.
Yeah, I was starting a LinkedIn group, and I'm pretty good at finding email addresses, right, through Google. So, and my group is called AR Glasses, or Augmented Reality Glasses. So I come across some news article, and the person would be either in academia or some sort of corporate research. I would go search, I'd find their email address, and then I'd send them an invitation to the group. So now I'm up around only about 1,200 people that are on my discussion group. But in the first couple weeks that I started this group, I was the #1 influencer. So in other words, I was the one that was putting out the articles and that kind of thing, posting things. Now, I'm outnumbered. All the folks that I've invited to the group, they've taken over, and they put all really relevant information out there. A lot of comments go back and forth, and a lot of really interesting things have happened. I was telling Peter earlier, I got invited over to speak to the Ministry of Defense in London, a group of colonels and generals to talk about augmented soldiers. And I got that connection through LinkedIn. So good things can really happen with social media. I'm kind of the same school. I felt that LinkedIn and Twitter was more relevant, at least for me, than Facebook.
Now I'm going to leave it up to you. Who has questions? Back there. You might have to just shout it out. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you go.
Oh, great. Hi, my name is Will Figueroa. I'm a junior here at the Mount. I myself own an LLC. I've been very blessed to start a company at a very young age. You had mentioned briefly about social media and how it's impacted your lives or whatever. And my question is, I feel as though, at least in my experience at my young age and starting my own company, that you could do renegade Craigslist ads and Facebook ads. You could do so many things to really get your name out. But how do you quantify? Granted, you have there are platforms out there like Hearsay Social to show you your ROI. There are things like Clout to show you how far your word is going, whether it's 5 people, 100 people, how many people are actually reading what you're posting or what you're emailing. What are your analytic tools to help me as a young entrepreneur who my dream is to help other businesses? At a very young age, I was blessed to understand that I knew how to start businesses. I love helping people, and I was tired of people really truly taken advantage of by these big corporate companies. So how do you, with understanding where I'm coming from, how do you quantify, or what analytical tools do you use to truly measure your customer base?
There are a lot of analytic tools out there, and after this, I will stand with you for 15 minutes, and I'll give you a list.
Great.
Having said that, I don't believe in it. I do believe in quantifying.
Right.
And I believe strongly that if you can't quantify it, it's just ethereal and it really may not even exist. So my answer to you is in each channel you address, put a different offer out there or a different thought out there, or even, I tell people who sell products, make a different offer. Discount 5% on this channel. On that channel, discount by $10. On that channel, say the first person to mention the word yellow gets a free tchotchke. And see what comes back. Because I don't believe any of the analytical tools that are out there do more than measure hits. They don't measure impact. They don't measure who's really reading you. They only measure that 379 times this automated machine spit this out to this machine. And to me, that's not quantifying anything. So after this, I'd love to sit down.
Thank you. Yeah, Bill, remember, Bill's product is very social media linked.
Bill doesn't apply.
Bill's a specialty.
Well, it certainly applies. I think social media is very, it's very hard to measure the impact there. And I think it always will be. I mean, we have the analytical tools, but it's more or less automating what you're doing now. You're interactive, you're talking to people. It's very hard. You'll walk out of here tonight and say, gee, that person next to me said, I should try this sandwich down the road, and I end up going there tomorrow. That guy's never going to know that that's how the message came. But what we try to do, what we're trying to do, what part of our mission does, we identify as a need in advertising, is coming from newspaper, radio, et cetera. They made a living on advertising, but not really measuring. Everybody believed in it. But what we can do, for instance, we have designed analytics into our product so that you will know that, for instance, that you get better response from half off as 2 for the price of 1. You can actually test these things, and we can tell you in real time how many people ask for it, how many are interacting with you, and how many happen. So I think there's a great area to be developed on that, but you have to be careful what you're measuring. And I think if you were to measure the impact of having a meeting like this analytically, you wouldn't have it. So, and that would be a grave mistake. So I think you need to participate in social media just to get your word out, and you will know that you're well known as it goes out. It's very difficult to measure precisely.
Curiosity, what's your clout score?
It's above 50.
So see, I didn't even wake up in the morning and mine was 46. I looked it up the other day. I'd done nothing to do a cloud score at all.
Right.
So I was pretty happy. I woke up one day and I had 46. I mean, that was better than most of the scores I got in college.
Right.
I would just say that decide for yourself what your metrics need to be. I mean, it's going to be different for different stages of your business. For me, initially, it was just to get that clout, to get that reach, to get those followers. So if I know my list is growing with the right type of followers, with the right type of connections on LinkedIn, that was my metric. Then the next part was, okay, how many real relationships can I build over LinkedIn? How many, I'm going to do a promotion for LinkedIn and do a teleclass on a certain communication topic. So my goal is 50 if I get, so that I'm quantifying that. Now it's actually generating revenue from it. So I think at each stage of your business, wherever you're at, it's going to evolve and change. And just be aware to make your own decisions to, what you want.
I'm just going to comment real quickly. We haven't spoken about YouTube or Vimeo, or there are certain mechanisms right now that allow instant feedback, where people can respond directly to whatever it is you're putting out there. And video is a very powerful mechanism, tool to sort of see if people are responding based on whether or not they're viewing.
There's a number that I saw an article someone sent me the other day, and on the likes, big corporate likes on Facebook, the number of likes that they have, and it was directly asking your question. I mean, how can you really determine something like this? And of the number of likes on big corporations, the top 10, anyone average that we come across this group and come up with, 5% of the likes on Facebook are at all active. and I know that for myself. I'll go in and I'll meet somebody and I'll like their page, but not much happens after that. And the way that Facebook is now charging for the information as a corporation, they make you pay for knowing who the likes were. That's another part of what's going on here. And there's actually a counter, you can do something against that yourself by telling people that like you to do it a certain way, and you can kind of get on it.
Just on that real quick, I was looking at another group that was doing something similar to what we were doing, and I looked on their Twitter account to see how many followers they had, and I noticed a huge spike that they had, and I was intimidated. I was like really impressed. I said, "My goodness, boys, they've got so many followers. They must be doing something right." And right around that same week, there was a news broadcast that talked about it was either the presidential race and the number of fake followers that are on certain candidates. And they said if you go to this website and you put in their Twitter handle, you're able to find out their percentage of fake followers. And some companies and some individuals have upwards of 90%. It kind of goes along with what some folks said. You've got an ability to buy, Twitter, followers, and upwards of real ridiculous numbers, like 100,000. Right. And so, but then if you use this particular tool, you're able to, see how many fake followers. So I had seen a number of those advertisements come through that says, hey, get a number of Twitter followers, and it always crossed my mind. I thought, gee, that's really, that's interesting. And I just thought there was something that didn't feel right about it. And then especially after seeing this group and their number of fake followers, I said, it's just a credibility issue. Go and do that, and then it's found out, and then it just, looks bad. It's just not a good way of doing business. And just, it's anecdotally, it's just something I had come across.
Yeah, in fact, I haven't kept up with him, but I have an acquaintance out in Boston. His name is Wes Kusmal, Kussnal or something. You have to Google it a bit. And he's an authority on authentication online, and he has all kinds of great ideas. I actually worked with him for half a year or so on something. He was actually one of the foundational people in commercial internet, and he was in the military on an island out in the Pacific and knew a lot about the internet for using communications. And when it went commercial, he was right up front, built a company called Delphi, and sold it to Rupert Murdoch's group very early on. And something to do is take a look at Wes Kusmal, and he has videos online, and it's talking about a world of authenticity, which is trouble. And just the way I wake up, I'd rather be good than lucky and buy 100,000. Maybe I will try to buy 100,000. That'd be kind of neat having 100,000. Meet one or two of them, I don't know. But still, authenticity is an entire topic on itself about offering stronger identities out there. Anybody else comment on that? Kenan, how about you? What's your social media presence? You don't need it.
I mean, utilize it, but for me, it's, we don't really utilize it at all.
It's interesting that you don't, because the product you're now selling is a healthy kind of.
But a number of different products, but the main product is yes, a health
kind. It's interesting. There is a group called Sproutman. Actually, comes from Tennessee, and he's coming up to this area. And what I was fascinated with is this whole social media. What we forget about social media is the social part. We think, okay, we have these 100,000 people who we don't know. We have no idea what they do, and we really don't care. All we want them to do is like us, or now subscribe to us, or whatever. Well, that's crazy, because the real issue is, what do I have that they want, and what do they have that I want? And in your case, if you're developing your healthy whatevers, then it's getting people to be loyal, maybe buy more products more often, because it's going to increase my lifespan to, whatever, or make me so smart that nobody's going to be able to keep up. So developing this loyalty to a brand is not just placement, although that's important, and it's not just product price, but it's how do I get, Coke buys their position. We have a little more difficulty than them, so does Pepsi. So the real question is, what does social media do for us, and who are we socializing with? Are we socializing with everybody here? And do we really care? Did any of you care enough to get everybody's email? Just out of curiosity. I talk to my husband, who's a fine artist, who speaks all the time, and we talk about how many emails and what do you do with them. And then what do you sell them? Skip actually addressed it more closely. It's the idea of, okay, I send them an email, and by the way, I have a product I can sell where they can listen to some kind of video that we're doing, or we can have a live chat. And these, eventually, you give them away free. And then eventually, because you've become such a trusted name, you're now able to sell them for $10. Eventually, you're able to sell them for $100. So sometimes we have to remember social media is social, and we're really meant to know who we're talking to. I actually live and work right around the corner from you guys, so you can come in and say hello. My name is Terry Goldstein, and I'm the publisher of Hudson Valley Parent. We work with moms, excuse you, dads. 95% of our subscribers are women, and we actually help parents parent. Social media to us is real important, so it's a combination of, we have meetups on a regular basis. So if you have meetup.com, anybody you participate in that? Okay, so that's where people are interested. So social media is Facebook. Although we're on Twitter, you'll excuse me, I'm an old fart. I really don't understand it. So Facebook works great. Email blasts work great. We have videos that work great. And we're constantly talking to the people who are interested in us. And that's really what the whole thing's about, you know, to figure out what the community is all about and help that community grow in a way that they want to do it. And I think that's unique for everybody, whatever business you want to be in.
Can I answer your question? You asked, did any of us care enough to get the email addresses here? I made my living in the city by riding this wave of interactive promotions. I won a lot of awards for interactive promotions. I sold a lot of products for big companies through interactive promotions.
Right.
When I started my company 11 years ago, one of the big skill sets that I brought out to my regional new world was email marketing and interactive promotions. And 11 years ago, I can tell you it didn't work anywhere near as well as it did 15 years ago. 5 years ago, it worked 20% as well as it did 15 years ago. Today, if I collect every email in here, there are 3 of you that will even see my effort if I try to email you. Because I'm going right in your junk folder. And those 3 of you who didn't have me go to your junk folder, 2 of you resent the hell out of me. So in answer to your question, social media to reach out to people, you're right. That's what social media should be for. But to quantifyingly say, I do this because it increases my sales by that, I don't think there's any good way to do that with the tools that are out there, short of really specifically getting back to the social. What are you asking me for? You're asking me for 5% off? Ah, that came from Facebook. You're asking me for a 10% discount if I buy yellow instead of blue? I know where that came from. And that's the only way I personally, as a marketer who came up in the internet world, that's the only way I advise my clients to quantify social these days. Period. Not saying it's not valuable, but quantifiable, that's the only way I tell them to do it.
I'm going to roll right in, since you have the microphone, but roll right into question here coming around the other side from being a marketer to be, I'm changing a little bit of the stream here, but onto your own product like Roadblock. What's it like going around the table? I mean, you have to spend far more years, maybe not in the P&L to see profit loss controllership, or at least observation and answering up to what's going on in ROI rates and finances. What's it like going around the other side of the table so many days now around these other products?
Well, let me start by saying I've been in business 11 years, so don't tell me I'm new in my own business. No, I know. But I mean, people tend to forget that. A service business is another invention, and it's another marketable startup business. And anybody who has started a service business and spent years developing a service business and can raise their hand 5 years, 10 years later and say, I'm still here and I still have a house over my head, has to have learned how to do a startup business. Having said that, you're right. I now own 5% of two businesses. I own 10% of another. I've got one I own 100% of that's just getting off the ground. And so, yeah, is there a difference? Sort of. But for me, I've always acted as the chief marketing officer for my clients. So, no, for me, there's not a whole lot of difference. It's finding, you know, all this formula stuff. Find the pain point, find what you're experienced at, be willing to take advice from people who know better, find your target audience, find out how to reach them, and then tell them what you think they will need to hear to motivate them to buy or do what you want them to do. And to me, that's marketing, whether it's really startup or it's really this product or that product. It all comes down to building and marketing a product or service. So no, I don't see much of a difference.
We have a question from the floor. Yes.
This question is actually for Pete. Hi, my name is Alex. I have a great idea that I made a business plan for. I went to a competition. I was a finalist. But it needs a software. It needs barcoding and inventory software. And I just didn't have the time for that because I'm a college student for the next 2 weeks. Once I finish, then I'm done, and then I can go look onto my own ventures. But this is something that I definitely still want to do. Now, what does a normal software company charge for barcoding software and inventory software? How do I get my foot in the door into finding a company to do something like that for me? Because I know that this is a smartphone application. It's definitely marketable. I can sell it to stores. It would be one of the biggest smartphone inventions of all time. I'm not joking. I can give you the business idea and you'll see it and you'll absolutely love it. So what do I do?
Good attitude. It's got purpose. I get emails quite a bit from companies either in India or Eastern Europe, and they'll say, we've got developers and they're really, low rates and everything. There's a couple of things that you might want to think about. Would you want someone, if you really wanted to make it a business, would it make more sense to have someone, to partner with and have someone on staff? There's a website, techcofounders.com. In fact, there's a number of co-founder websites. One is called cofounda.com. Tech co-founders, goodness, I don't know all the names of them, but it's just one possibility. And it's kind of interesting. I was having a conversation before this session tonight, and when you go to pitch for VC money or angel money, a number of these folks that have the financing will say, well, who's on your team? And they'll look for a tech person, a business person, and a product person. And so, you can certainly go one person and start your business. Sometimes a little bit of support is good, and then you have that, your business, let's say the business side, and the other person's the tech side. That's just a possibility. Otherwise, if you're looking just to, if you don't want to share your idea or equity, and you're just looking to, get the product built, I'd say sure, spec it out. And there's a couple of possibilities for that as well. Hack NY. So there's a number of students in Silicon Valley, New York University, where they'll do projects. They'll do a senior project just to do an application. And you got to kind of talk to the business office to see, the licensing and commercial aspects of that. That was another one. Hackers and Founders. That's another one. You can go to any of the tech meetups in New York City. There's one, I think it's called Tech Meetup. About 800 people go every single month. You make a flyer. How easy is that? Make a flyer, put it out there. You're going to get some Android and iPhone developers, calling or emailing you. And I'm just thinking of an inexpensive way to, accomplish your goal. That might be some ways.
Thank you.
Very good. Actually, there's another interesting place I visited last week. There was a contingent of 17 international startups, young people starting one competitions, and they were from they're from all like Algeria and all kinds of Turkey, everywhere. And it was at a place down in New York. You might want to take a look at it too. I mean, all of us probably know somewhere. I mean, I was at the Orange County Business Accelerator, plugged in. but General Assembly, it's a really interesting model down there. General Assembly is a really neat and unique place. It's very interesting. Right on the front page they say, you're not going to be able to call us because we all have cell phones. We don't even have a phone here. But it's backed by big money. And I don't know exactly who it is. And you go down on a Monday or Tuesday, and they have open house on a 5 o'clock. But it is worth taking a look at other incubators and other kinds of meetups down in New York. I mean, the energy is for a train ticket from here. You're down there and back again in the evening. There's a lot of in the city. So there you go. We'll catch a train. How about any more questions out there? I think we're kind of really. Anybody going to start a business after everything I heard today?
Jim, what's a good commodity for food-wise? For stock-wise, if you're investing in commodities as food, which one would you guys recommend?
To invest in?
Yeah.
I'm the wrong guy to ask that question.
Not the initial, right?
No.
Actually, anything China's buying.
Yeah.
China.
There you go.
There you go. That's a Sabila. China can't supply its own food. There's a project going on in Orange County right now that addresses that. People that across the board, which is going on with China, will be a big producer. It'll even out our balance of trade with them. They just can't produce enough. They don't have enough land.
Private label is right now. Private label.
There's a whole population as big as the United States that has spending money. They're operational out of fine for them. I know with individuals or white collar types, it's 350 million people there that big. Food is just something that I have available land for. So, are you there right now?
China?
Have you looked at China at all?
It's actually one of our manufacturing facilities in Taiwan. But yeah, just going right back to that, private label is a huge thing. I don't know exactly, and we can talk afterwards, but exactly like the root of your question. Are you looking for a specific company to invest money in, or are you looking for different ideas on concepts?
I was just looking at it such as the population grows, there's only so much food, and everybody needs food, and so which company is producing the most food that people are buying the most?
Well, for better or worse, about 6-7 years ago, I was in the deal that actually put Genesee beer into China, so I don't know if they really want me coming over there. That might not be great. That might be a curse rather than a blessing. Very good. Laura, I think we have a really good evening, and everybody's kind of questioned out here. You want to take it
Thank
from
you
there?
very much to all of our presenters. It is a valuable night for all the business students. Peter Gregory